Many years ago in the city of Benin, there was a young man named Michael. He was an exceedingly handsome individual with a baritone voice and a prominent jawline that distinguished him in a crowd of men. Michael was not merely attractive. He was extraordinarily wealthy. He owned numerous houses across the country and had a garage filled with exotic cars, possessing more vehicles than even a car dealership. Michael resided in a mansion with so many rooms that if he chose to sleep in a different room each night, he would still have spare rooms at the end of 1 year. He had hotels, clubs, and shopping malls in every part of the state. Michael was so affluent that rumors circulated about him using money as toilet paper after using the restroom. However, despite his immense wealth, Michael preferred not to socialize or attend parties like other young men. He was very private and cherished his personal space. He never allowed anyone to get too close, not even his household staff. Michael lived alone in his extravagant mansion, which had a fence as tall as an Iroko tree, all by himself. The staff were not permitted to spend the night at the mansion under any circumstances. They would arrive at around 8:00 a.m. and by 6:00 p.m. sharp, they were all gone, leaving Michael alone with his dark secrets. Secrets that could cause a grown man to faint in fright. Secrets that could send a child into convulsions, and that secret was concealed behind a particular door inside a specific dark room in his mansion. Michael was fairly well known among the local women. They all pursued him, attempting to secure a place in his life as his partner, but Michael never took any of them seriously. He dated a few, but those relationships never lasted beyond a few months. Michael had a particular type of girl in mind. They were young girls from impoverished families in small villages far from Benin. When it was time for Michael to marry, he did not choose any girl from Benin. He traveled to a distant small village in Sapele to find a wife. Upon arriving at the village, he sought out a girl named Sonia, a 19-year-old who had just completed her secondary school education. She was the eldest of 5 children. Her parents were subsistence farmers who struggled daily to provide food for their family. Michael approached Sonia and her family, expressing his desire to marry her. He showered them with money, constructed a mansion for Sonia's parents in the village, and established her father with a substantial business. He overwhelmed them with wealth, the likes of which they had never encountered, and that was how Sonia was given to Michael in marriage. No excessive questions were asked. No significant drama. Money speaks, nonsense ceases. Michael paid Sonia's bride price, and the marriage ceremony became the talk of the village. The villagers envied Sonia for securing a wealthy man who transformed their fortune overnight. After the wedding, Michael brought his young, innocent wife to his mansion in the city and provided her with the finest of everything, from clothing to jewelry. He treated her like royalty. After a few months, Sonia became pregnant and excitedly shared the big news with her husband. They both rejoiced. They both celebrated, but their celebration soon turned into mourning. Shortly thereafter, Sonia met her end in a mysterious manner. She went to sleep one night and never awoke the following morning while pregnant. Michael notified her parents, and they all wept and grieved their loss. Oh, what a lively girl, still in her youth. Her dreams and future vanished like a breeze. Sonia's parents sobbed uncontrollably. Michael also shed a few tears. However, what has occurred has occurred. He informed Sonia's parents that he wished to bury his late wife at the rear of his mansion, and they permitted him since he was her husband. No inquiries made. Nothing. Michael interred his deceased pregnant wife, or so everyone believed, and just like that, life continued. A career forgotten. 1 year later, Michael chose to remarry. This time, he traveled to a small village in Benue and pursued a stunning girl named Esther. Esther was a 19-year-old girl, very brilliant with long hair and bright eyes that held so much hope for the future. Esther was an orphan who lived with her uncle and his family. She was very hardworking and decent. Every day after school, she would go to the junction to hawk pure water to support her family. That was where Michael laid his eyes on her, like a predator eyeing his next prey. He approached Esther's uncle, lavished them with money and gifts, and asked for Esther's hand in marriage. Esther never wanted to get married. She had dreams of going to the university and becoming a lawyer someday. But dreams don't pay school fees. Money does. Michael promised to see her through school. He promised heaven and earth. And the pressure from Esther's uncle, who was blinded by wealth, didn't make things any easier for her. Eventually, she agreed to marry Michael. And just like in the case of Sonia, Michael built a big house for Esther's uncle and established the family. And they had the biggest wedding ceremony that shook the entire village to its very foundation. After the marriage ceremony, Michael took his wife in his car to the city. And as they left, Esther waved her uncle and cousins goodbye, promising to keep in touch. But what they didn't know was that that would be the last time they would ever see Esther. When Esther arrived at Michael's mansion, it felt like heaven on earth for her. She had servants at her beck and call. She ate whatever she wanted. Michael gave her a personal driver to take her anywhere she wanted. She wore the best outfits that celebrities wore in movies. Her life was like a fairy tale. Michael was the best husband she could have ever asked for, and Esther was happy. She went down on her knees, thanking God every day for a husband like Michael. Michael kept his promise to see her through school. He helped her enroll at JAMB, and she entered the university to study law. Everything was perfect. Life was perfect until she got pregnant, and calamity struck again. Just like in the case of Sonia, Esther slept one night and never woke up. Her life and the life growing inside her was mysteriously cut short. Her dreams terminated. After Esther's death, Michael cried. Esther's family cried. Everybody mourned the young girl whose life was cut short by the cold hands of death. After a few days, Michael asked to bury Esther's corpse in his mansion. And just like that, Esther's uncle allowed him. No questions asked, no drama, no suspicions, just silence. In a few months, the world moved on and forgot about Esther. Exactly 1 year later, Michael remarried, this time to a beautiful Muslim girl from Kano. Her name was Fatima. Fatima met the same cruel fate as the other 2 young girls Michael married before her. That was also the case with Sonia and Esther, a 20-year-old girl from Abia State, and, let me see, all the young girls met their ends mysteriously a few months after marrying Michael. In 5 years, 6 girls had lost their lives with their pregnancies in Michael's mansion, and nobody suspected anything. The families of the young girls never asked questions. They just went back to their homes to mourn their deaths. One fateful Saturday, Michael went to a wedding in the city. There, his eyes landed on a young, beautiful girl with full bosom. She couldn't have been more than 22 years old. Immediately, Michael laid his eyes on her. He had already started making plans to marry her. The girl's name was Victoria, popularly called Vic. Vic was a fresh graduate from the University of Benin. She was learning how to do makeup before she goes for the National Youth Service Corps. That weekend, her madam was contracted to do makeup for a bride. Vic followed her madam. After they had finished styling the bride, they were offered a table in the lavish reception hall and offered assorted food, Vic's madam being the bridal makeup artist. That day, Vic descended on the plate of food the caterer served her, stuffing her face without a care in the world. She had not eaten all day. And it was not every day you see food like Chinese rice and seafood boiled to eat. This was a golden opportunity, and she took advantage of it. As she was bulldozing through her plates of food, she felt a pair of eyes staring at her. It was not a bad stare. It was that kind of stare a man gives to a woman he is interested in. Vic looked up, and her eyes met a handsome man dressed richly in white agbada. The man was tall with a fit body that was visible under his agbada, and his smile, oh, his smile was heavenly. Immediately, she turned her eyes away from the man, slightly embarrassed, and continued eating her food. But this time, she was no longer devouring it like a hungry lioness. She now added a little poise. Since there was an admirer staring at her now, all through the event, Vic noticed the man's eyes following her everywhere. She stole a few glances his direction, and each time their eyes met, her heart would jump. There was something about this man. She found it fascinating. At the conclusion of the event, the man approached a child and introduced himself. "Hi, my name is Michael. I couldn't help but watch you throughout the event." "Wow, you are beautiful," he remarked. And she blushed deeply. She was done. That was the moment Vic and Michael began their conversation. They went on several outings and eventually started dating. Michael was a dream come true for Vic. He was attractive, kind, and affluent. He was transparent like an open book. He confided in Vic that he had been married prior, and that his previous wife passed away due to complications during pregnancy. Vic felt moved by his honesty, and her love for him deepened. However, there was one aspect that made Vic certain he was the one for her. He never requested the cookie. In contrast to the last guy she dated who sought intimacy and wanted to move quickly, Michael was different. He never made any sexual advances toward her. He never touched her in inappropriate ways. They didn't even kiss. All they did was hold hands. When she inquired about it, he explained he was waiting for their wedding night. Do these types of men still exist? This is one complete package. She couldn't believe she had landed a responsible man. She couldn't stop raving about Michael to her friends, family, and even church members. Michael paid numerous visits to Vic in her modest home in Benin. Each time he came, he showered Vic's parents and siblings with gifts, wrappers, and money. He was modest and courteous. Before long, he had won the hearts of Vic's family. After a few months, Vic and Michael got married. Michael purchased a house for Vic's parents. He bought cars for them and enhanced Vic's mother's rice business, just as he had done for his other 6 late wives. And she couldn't believe her incredible luck in living in such a palace. There were household staff who handled all the tasks around the house, a personal driver who took her around the city. Vic never had to lift a finger to do anything. She was treated like a princess, and Hala was sweeter than sugar. He was consistently very attentive to her. He never raised his voice when he spoke to her. He spoiled her with luxury. However, after a few months, Vic began to observe some odd patterns. He never allowed her to visit her parents in Benin City, nor were her parents permitted to visit her. When she inquired about this, he stated that he wanted his space, claiming that they had just gotten married and it wasn't time for visitors yet. Vic also realized that his family or friends never came over. They were living in isolation within the large house. Even the staff were not permitted to stay overnight. Once it struck 6:00 p.m., the house would feel almost like a graveyard. Or perhaps it was a graveyard characterized by a silence and darkness she couldn't articulate. What genuinely worried her was how Michael would frequently vanish most nights into a particular room in the mansion and remain there for hours, leaving her alone in their bedroom. Fear began to seep into Vic's thoughts, but she kept reassuring herself that nothing was amiss. Months went by, and Michael started urging Vic to become pregnant. It felt fine at first. They merely discussed it, and Michael was still the sweet man she had married. However, after 1 year of marriage and her inability to conceive, she began to see a different side of Michael that she had never envisioned. He was no longer gentle or kind toward her. He began threatening her to get pregnant, or he would end their marriage. Vic grew anxious. She had attempted everything she could, but nothing was happening. She had consumed all the concoctions her mother sent her to help her conceive, but nothing was effective. One day, she visited a clinic in Asaba for a checkup. The doctor performed a series of tests on her, and when the results arrived, she was informed that her body was healthy enough to bear children. The doctor advised Vic to tell her husband to come in for a checkup as well. That evening, when Vic shared the doctor's advice with Michael, he erupted in anger. "You are the one with the problem, Vic. My late wife became pregnant after a few months of our marriage. Maybe you are simply barren," he scoffed. His comments cut Vic deeply. She attempted to persuade him to accompany her to the hospital for a checkup, but he flatly refused. "Vic, if you still don't get pregnant by the end of this month, then this marriage is over. I'm running out of time," he declared as he stormed out. That night, Vic couldn't find rest. She sobbed uncontrollably, fearing that her marriage was crumbling due to her inability to have children. The following day, she called her mother and explained everything to her. They initiated a mandatory period of dry fasting and prayer for a baby to come. Vic prayed fervently to conceive, unaware that she might mysteriously meet her end if God decided to answer their prayers. In the following days, Michael underwent a complete transformation. He ceased sleeping in the same bedroom with Vic. He hardly communicated with her. It felt as though she had become an outsider in her own house. Each night, Michael would enter his hidden room and secure himself inside for the entire night, engaging in activities only God knows. She noticed this, but dismissed it, assuming it was merely his studies where he kept vital business documents. However, as time went on, she began to hear peculiar sounds coming from that room. It was Michael's voice talking to whom exactly? She had no clue. Vic's curiosity overwhelmed her, and she resolved to discover what lay behind that door that was always shut. The following day, she inquired with one of the household staff, but the staff member said they were unaware of its contents and were never permitted to approach the door. The woman informed Vic that they had only begun working in the mansion when Michael married her and brought her home. It dawned on Vic that perhaps Michael was concealing something. She had overlooked the signs for far too long. Something was undoubtedly amiss, and she was determined to uncover the truth. For the next few days, Vic began searching for clues to keys that could unlock that specific door. Then she recalled that her husband always carried a particular key with him wherever he went. He claimed it was the key to his fortune. That must be the key. That day, she searched online for how to replicate keys. She discovered that wax could be used to duplicate keys. She ventured out to a chemical store and purchased wax along with other supplies. Then she returned home as if nothing had happened. That evening, Vic crept into the room where Michael was staying and quickly used the wax to take an imprint of the key for duplication while Michael was in the bathroom bathing, and she carefully placed the key back where she had found it before returning to her room and continuing as usual. That night, Michael entered his special room again and spent the entire night there. The next morning, Vic woke up, got dressed, and immediately after Michael left the house, she also departed without her usual driver. She took a car to a key fabrication shop that she had discovered online the previous day. That day, she had Michael's special key duplicated. She was prepared to unveil all his secrets. When she arrived home that afternoon, an inner voice urged her to simply open the door when Michael wasn't present and investigate. But no, she was resolute. She decided to sneak around at night while Michael was engaged in his activities in his room. When Michael returned home that evening, he didn't suspect anything. They engaged in their typical brief conversation, and Vic even shed a few tears to persuade him that she was troubled about their inability to conceive. As her plans initiated that night, Michael entered the secret room, and the usual noise started just like every night for the preceding weeks. Vic, who was wide awake, tiptoed towards the door, determined to discover what lay inside, even if it meant risking her marriage. When Michael was preoccupied with his activities, Vic unlocked the door with her duplicate key, and in an instant, she burst into the room with great force. And there it was. Her spirit fled her body at the sight. She was astounded. Michael was likewise taken aback and shocked that Vic had unveiled the secret. Vic stood there, attempting to comprehend what was happening. Her husband Michael was engaging in intimacy with an embalmed, dead pregnant woman on the bed. She counted 1, 2, 3, 6 women, dead pregnant women, all draped in white wraps, meticulously arranged on the bed. Her mouth fell open in horror when Michael realized that his secret was exposed. He quickly regained his composure and lunged towards Vic. She had witnessed his darkest secret, so he couldn't allow her to leave. He needed to handle her before she could speak out and disclose everything. Michael attempted to seize Vic, but she evaded him and fled the house. He pursued her with all his strength, but Vic was swifter. She dashed out of their large house, crying out for assistance. Help me, someone please help me." Her cries alarmed the neighbors in the community and attracted the notice of the estate security team. They hurried outside and witnessed Vic fleeing from her husband, Michael, while she pleaded for help. She sprinted toward the security office and informed them that her husband was trying to take her life. "Please help me, my husband intends to kill me. He is involved in rituals," she exclaimed. That day, Vic revealed to the estate security what she had discovered in Michael's hidden room, leading to his arrest. They entered his mansion and found pregnant women lying lifelessly with their large bellies. "I have always claimed that he practices rituals. Now, every year he marries new wives," one of the security members remarked, leaving everyone in total shock. Michael was a wicked man. The neighbors contacted the authorities, and Michael was taken into custody. The deceased bodies were removed from the mansion and transported to the morgue for further examination. Vic, trembling in fear, quickly gathered her belongings and fled the house. At the police station, Michael sat in a chair, his arms and legs crossed like a criminal. The DPO looked at him with trepidation and asked, "Mr. Michael, Can you explain why 6 women's bodies were discovered in your home? And why were you attempting to end the life of your 7th wife when she uncovered your secret? Michael glared back at the DPO, causing a shiver to run down his spine. Officer, I don't have much time. I'll just come clean. That woman destroyed my life. I regret marrying her. She was not like my previous spouses. She was both older and wiser. I made a mistake in taking her as my wife. The purpose of my last wife, DOB, was to ensure my long life. Years ago, my friends and I traveled to a distant village to perform a money ritual. Each of us purchased a cock to bring along. A local healer indicated that the quantity of corn kernels consumed by our cock would determine how many years we would live following the ritual. My friends received lifespans of 50, 40, and 60 years. However, when it was my turn, my cock only ate 5 kernels, meaning I only had 5 more years to savor the fruits of my labor. To remedy this, I needed to sacrifice 5 pregnant women, whom I had married in accordance with tradition. I had already managed to sacrifice 6 women. Vic was meant to be the 7th, but she was unable to conceive and uncovered my secret, causing all my efforts to go to waste. With the 5 years now over, the spirit would arrive to take its due. Michael remarked with a vacant look that he understood his time had come. He felt like a living ghost. The police station was rattled to its core. Fear seized the officers when Michael made his admission. They never imagined anything like this could occur. The police kept him incarcerated and reached out to the families of the deceased so they could claim the children victimized by Michael's brutality. Within days, the shocking news spread rapidly across social media, on television, and on the radio, sending fear throughout the community. Michael's parents were utterly stunned to learn their son was involved in ritualistic practices. Hookie, the sole survivor, was profoundly affected by Michael's confession. She was unable to rest or eat. She hurried back to her parents in Benin City and sought immediate help from their church. On the 7th day following Michael's arrest, authorities discovered him dead, just as he had predicted, with his abdomen enlarged like a pregnant woman and crimson fluid leaking from his nose, eyes, and ears. He had passed away. They laid him to rest in a common grave reserved for criminals. The news of Michael's demise struck like a bolt of lightning. The city fell silent for days. Even children refrained from crying. Everything paused in fear. Parents worried for their daughters. Daughters felt endangered. And a significant lesson was learned that would linger in the minds of the people for years to come. Hi everyone, what lessons have you gained from this tale? The lesson from this tale is that we must remain cautious. Not everything that shines is valuable. When someone approaches you to propose, it's wise to inquire further. Learn about him. Understand him before you agree. When a suitor wants to marry your daughter, make sure to investigate him. Pray about it and understand what you are entering into before you start. The world is filled with deceitful individuals, and this is just the beginning.